Did you buy more Bitcoin this week?
Yeah. I kind of seem to buy every dip in crypto.
You do?
I I have a long-term faith that, and the same reason I got into criminal justice reform, it's about systems change. Crypto at its core is about systems change, right? The blockchain revolution, the crypto revolution is about remaking the financial infrastructure and actually the consumer infrastructure of our country in a more transparent, just, fair way. It came as a response to the '08 financial crisis. When you talk to the people in the middle of it, they are really revolutionaries. And so I know there's frenzies with things like Dogecoin and Shiba Inu, and everyone gets excited with the kind of gambling aspect of it. But at its core, it's really about rebuilding a system in a way that cuts out the rent taker.
Right.
That is more fair.
So did you buy this dip? We saw a decline of 30% earlier this week.
I bought Bitcoin and Ethereum on the dip.
You did, okay. Kathy Wood was on our air earlier this week. She's a long-term Bitcoin bull as well. She still thinks the price can get to $500,000. What do you see the price ultimately being for Bitcoin?
So listen, I think that's a decent target. If you want to think about Bitcoin in the crypto ecosystem has taken this lane of digital gold, of a store of value. And we have a financial system right now in the US where the old head of the central bank is actually running the Treasury Department. So if you believed in independent central banking, that's kind of metaphorically an important thing to understand. Like, we've lost independent central banking. We have a central bank that is printing money nonstop. And because of it, right, fiat currencies are being devalued and debased. And so gold is rallying. Bitcoin as the new digital version of gold has been rallying. I think Bitcoin will surpass gold in 3 or 4 years. That makes it about 500,000, assuming gold stays where it is. And I actually think gold goes higher. And so how is it going to get there? It's going to get there with more adoption. I was on the phone with the head of one of the largest, pensions in the country yesterday, and they are unbelievably deep in the weeds of Bitcoin. Haven't bought a lot yet, but they're deep in the weeds in it. And so I just see institutions looking at this as a hedge versus, our Treasury Department and central banks' ability to actually get the economy landed with deficits that continue to grow, and a Congress that wants to and maybe should want to spend to deal with the inequality gap that we have.
Mike,
right? We don't have the Tea Party anymore saying stop spending money. We have a progressive party on the Democratic side saying we should have free college. Right. We should really have UBI in lots of ways.
Who is the pension fund?
I can't tell you who our customers are.
Okay, one of the biggest though in the country. I mean, that's a big hint, I think.
Definitely, Mike. You mentioned the Treasury. We also saw yesterday the U.S. Treasury announced that it wanted every crypto transfer larger than $10,000 to be reported to the IRS. Is this a good thing?
Listen, there's going to be regulation that comes down, and the crypto community is going to work in tandem with the regulators to try to get fair regulation that actually helps the industry expand with making sure that the government has the confidence in the system that they need. It starts in 2023. That's a long way from here, and there are probably some tweaks. But I tell everybody in crypto, pay your taxes. I pay my taxes on crypto every year. If you want to be a citizen of this country, you should pay your taxes. And so, tax surveillance isn't the end of the world. Where it starts and if it's on hosted or unhosted wallets, there's lots of nuance in this. But right now it's for big institutions, and I think that's fair.
And Mike, just ending the week that was and looking at, you bring up all of the other coins that are out there, Ethereum, Dogecoin. We have a coin here named after our very own Joe Weisenthal here in the building. When you look back at the past 5 days, do you think what we have seen sort of helped or potentially hurt the crypto cause?
Listen, when you think about something like Dogecoin, this is a young group of people that got together. It started as a meme. It became their passion, their calling. It tells you something that Doge can get to, $50 billion market cap or whatever, $80 billion market cap. It tells you that the Federal Reserve is printing lots of money and there's something wild going on, that LeBron James basketball card just sold for $5 million. A card like that would have sold for $300,000 18 months ago. And so those, I would call them tempest in a teapot crazes, are endemic to the monetary conditions we're living in today. I don't think it helps the overall crypto revolution. There's a really serious revolution going on, built by guys like Vitalik Buterin, who's the kind of champion of the Ethereum ecosystem. There's huge amounts of human capital, brain power going into trying to rebuild this infrastructure. And I think the bubbles, the crazes kind of take away from that. That said, I don't want to discredit that community. They're young guys, people made lots of money, they believe in it. There's something very tribal that's going on Twitter. It's going on in our country, right? You try to convince a Trump supporter that the election wasn't stolen and they'll come to fisticuffs with you. And so when I criticize some of these crypto communities and say, well, I don't really see the use case, I get violent response, at times death threats. And so I think it's endemic to our country is we're a bit of a broken country. We need to heal ourselves. We've got a chance, one of the reasons we did One for Democracy is we had a chance really, to start trying to write that, to give people voice who haven't had voice, to try to heal this fractured land that we have. But you see it literally graphically on Twitter in the crypto world. And so,
yeah, you do. Sometimes you don't want to be, sometimes you really regret being in those threads. At least I certainly do on Twitter because, especially with anonymity, Mike. Hey, I just want to end talking a little bit about the short-term impact of regulation. And if we're going to start to see more wild swings like we saw, if we do start to hear more from the government about regulating cryptocurrencies.
Listen, I think we're going to hear more from the government, right? Gary Gensler took over the SEC. Gary's a very smart guy. He taught a course at MIT on blockchain and crypto. He's going to address the issues. We're hoping the SEC gives a regulatory sandbox for new projects. We're hoping they approve an ETF. I think that's probably late fourth quarter, early first quarter. But clarity will help the space, certainly the institutional side of the space. And so I'm not fearful of regulation. I'm fearful of bad regulation, but I'm optimistic that, the crypto community is a big community now, and it's a well-funded community, and it's a well-connected community. And let me tell you, we're in conversation across the board with the regulators. And hopefully, we've got smart people in government. They know a lot more about this space than most people think. Certainly the young people at all the agencies, CFTC, if it's Treasury, if it's SEC, they all are long crypto. And so I think hopefully things end up in a good place.